There's a specific, really quiet kind of loneliness that comes with trying to get in shape. You know the scene. You're standing in the kitchen, weighing out exactly 150 grams of chicken breast, staring at a food scale, while your family's in the next room, laughing and ordering pizza. You feel like you're fighting this solitary war against your own desires and honestly against your own biology.
It is the classic man against nature narrative, except the nature is your own metabolism, and the battlefield is your pantry.
Exactly. And the prevailing wisdom, the stuff we're all told every January, is that weight management is just a personal ledger.
Calories in, calories out.
It's math and it's willpower. And if the math doesn't work, well, it's because you, the individual, didn't try hard enough. But I've got a stack of research here, specifically a paper by Victor H. Sertooth that says that entire premise might be, well, fundamentally flawed.
I would go so far as to say it's looking at the wrong map entirely.
Right, so the paper is titled Biological and Social Interdependency in Human Adiposity.
Which is a mouthful.
It is. But the core concept is the synchronized set point hypothesis. And when I read this, I had to put the paper down and just stare at the wall for a minute because it suggests that we aren't islands. We're more like networked computers.
Or a hive mind. That's really the better analogy.
So the big idea here is that your body weight isn't just decided by your gym habits or your genetics. It's being actively calibrated constantly by the people around you, your friends, your spouse, your coworkers. They are literally rewriting your biology.
And we mean literally. We aren't just talking about peer pressure to eat a donut. We're talking about your brain chemistry, your gut microbiome, and even the invisible chemical signals, pheromones, that you are inhaling from your social circle right now. These inputs are telling your body to store fat, regardless of what you decide to eat for lunch.
That is a massive claim. So the mission for this deep dive is to unpack how that happens. I want to understand the mechanism. How does my friend gaining weight in another city change the way my liver processes sugar?
It sounds like magic, but it's evolutionary biology.
Yeah.
And to understand it, we have to start with the basics. We have to look at the thermostat.
The set point.
Right. Most listeners know the basic concept of a set point. Your body has a homeostatic imperative. Just like it fights to keep your temperature at 98.6, it fights to keep your fat stores at a specific level. The control center is deep in the brain, in the hypothalamus, specifically the arcuate nucleus.
And it's ruthless. If I drop below that weight, the brain just pulls the fire alarm.
It screams starvation. It floods you with ghrelin to make you hungry, and it suppresses your metabolism so you burn fewer calories. It's a brilliant survival mechanism. But the paper introduces this nuance that's really important, something called the dual intervention point model.
The DIP model. This was new to me. It's not a single number, right? It's a range.
Think of it as a zone of indifference. You have a lower bound and an upper bound. Between those 2 points, your body is relatively relaxed. It doesn't fight you much. You can fluctuate 5 pounds here or there, and the alarm doesn't go off.
But if you hit the edges...
That's when the defense kicks in. The lower bound is ancient. It protects against starvation. That floor is made of concrete. For millions of years, if you dropped below that weight, you died. So the body defends against weight loss with everything it has.
Okay, so that's the floor. What about the ceiling? The upper bound?
Well, historically, the upper bound was the predation boundary. If you got too heavy, you were slow. If you were slow, a lion ate you. So evolution kept a cap on our weight. The body would ramp up metabolism to burn off excess energy so you didn't become a snack.
But we killed all the lions.
Exactly. We entered an era of predation release. We built walls, we invented weapons, we removed the physical threat of being heavy. So biologically, the ceiling has become soft. The paper calls this the drifty gene effect. Because the evolutionary pressure to stay light is gone, our weight can just drift upward. And the body doesn't push back nearly as hard as it does when you try to lose weight.
So the floor is concrete, but the ceiling is made of paper. We drift up, but here's the pivot, and this is where the paper gets wild. The drift isn't random. We aren't just drifting up because we like burgers. We're drifting up together.
Correct. The drift is socially synchronized.
This relies on the Framingham Heart Study data, right? I remember reading about this years ago, but seeing it in this context just hit different.
It's the most famous study on social networks and health. Christakis and Fowler, they mapped out thousands of people over decades, and they found that obesity spreads through a network like a contagion.
Like a virus.
Exactly. Like a virus.
The numbers are staggering. If my close friend becomes obese, my risk of becoming obese goes up by how much?
57%.
57%. That's huge.
It is. And if your sibling becomes obese, it's about 40%. If your spouse does, it's 37%. But the real kicker is the 3 degrees of influence.
This is the part that feels like science fiction.
It truly does. It's not just your direct friends. If your friend's friend gains weight, your risk goes up. Even if your friend's friend's friend, someone you've likely never met, someone who lives in a different state, gains weight, your risk of gaining weight still increases.
See, that's where I get skeptical. I understand if I go out to dinner with my best friend and he orders the nachos, I'm probably going to order the nachos. That's behavioral. But how does a stranger 3 degrees removed affect my waistline?
Because it's not just about the nachos. The study found that geographic distance didn't matter. You could have a friend living 1,000 miles away, and if they gain weight, you're still at higher risk. But a neighbor living right next door that you don't have an emotional bond with,
Zero influence.
zero. It's not the environment, it's the bond. And Surtus argues it goes deeper than just social norms. He argues it's a biological synchronization.
Which begs the question, why? Evolution is usually pretty thrifty. Why would it design my body to copy my friend's body?
This brings us to what's called the insurance hypothesis.
I loved this concept. It completely flips the script on why we have fat at all.
We usually think of fat as a personal battery pack. I store energy for me. But humans are an ultra-social species. We survived by sharing. If I killed a mammoth, we all ate. If you found berries, we all ate.
So in a way, my fat stores aren't just for me. They're a resource for the tribe.
Precisely. Body fat is a collective survival strategy. Now imagine you're a caveman. You look around at your tribe. If everyone is skinny, maybe things are fine. But if everyone starts packing on weight,
It's a signal.
it is a massive signal. Your primitive brain thinks, wait, everyone is storing up. They must know something I don't. Is winter coming? Is a famine coming?
It's like seeing your neighbors boarding up their windows. You don't ask why, you just start boarding up yours.
Exactly. Your biology interprets the fatness of your peers as a proxy for environmental stability. If the tribe is getting heavy, the safest thing for your genes to do is to synchronize with them. You raise your set point to match the group. It ensures that no single member becomes a burden during a famine.
That is profoundly clever and also incredibly frustrating for anyone trying to lose weight in 2026.
It is. You're fighting a survival mechanism that interprets your friend's weight gain as a weather report for a famine that will never come.
Okay, so that's the why. Now I want to get into the how. Because we aren't telepathic. My hypothalamus doesn't have Wi-Fi. How does my body physically know that my friend is gaining weight? The paper lists 3 main mechanisms: the brain, the gut, and the smell.
Let's start with the brain, specifically shared inflammation.
This goes back to diet, right?
It does. We know that the modern Western diet, high fat, high sugar, ultra-processed, causes inflammation. But specifically, it causes inflammation in the hypothalamus. It actually damages the neurons that tell you to stop eating.
The POMC neurons.
Right. And when those neurons get inflamed, you develop leptin resistance. Leptin is the hormone that says, I'm full. Inflammation makes the brain deaf to leptin.
So the gas tank is full, but the gauge on the dashboard reads empty.
Exactly. Now, because we're social eaters, we tend to eat the same foods as our tribe. If your social circle loves wings and beer, you're all exposing your brains to the same inflammatory triggers at the same time.
So we're literally getting brain damage in sync.
In a manner of speaking, yes. You're collectively breaking your thermostats. You're locking in a higher set point as a group because you are all deafening your brains to the full signal simultaneously.
Wow. Okay, let's move to the gut, the microbiome. This is a huge topic right now, but I didn't realize how contagious it was.
It is incredibly contagious. We have trillions of bacteria in our gut that help us digest food, but different bacteria do different things. Some are thrifty. They're incredibly efficient at extracting every single calorie from food.
So if I have thrifty bacteria, I could eat an apple and get 100 calories, but you eat the same apple and get 80.
Exactly. And here's where the social part comes in. Research shows that cohabiting couples share significantly more gut bacteria than strangers. In fact, computer algorithms can identify couples just by looking at their microbiome data.
Because they live together.
Because they kiss. Because they share a bathroom. Because they breathe the same air. We're constantly swapping microbes.
So if my partner develops a thrifty microbiome, maybe they're stressed or they change their diet, I can catch those calorie harvesting bacteria from them?
Yes. You can metabolically synchronize through intimacy. You literally catch their metabolism. If their gut becomes better at storing fat, yours likely will too, even if you don't change what you eat.
I caught your metabolism is a terrible breakup line, but it sounds scientifically accurate.
It's the ultimate intimacy. You're digesting together.
Okay, mechanism number 3. This is the one that sounded the most fringe to me. Exocrinology, pheromones. Are you telling me I can smell if my friend is gaining weight?
It sounds like pseudoscience, but the biological plausibility is actually very strong. We accept the McClintock effect, right?
Yeah.
The idea that women's menstrual cycles synchronize when they live together.
And a dorm room phenomenon, sure.
That's driven by pheromones, chemical signals. The Sertuche paper suggests a similar mechanism for energy balance. Humans emit what are called modulator pheromones.
And we have a nose for them.
We do. There's a specific olfactory receptor called OR7D4. It's been linked to appetite and adiposity. The theory is that we are constantly broadcasting our metabolic state.
So if I'm in storage mode, if my body is hoarding fat, I'm releasing a chemical signal.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
And if your social group picks up on that signal, their hypothalamuses might interpret it as, okay, the tribe is storing, we should store too.
The scent of starvation, or the scent of winter is coming.
Exactly. It ensures the group's energy desire remains consistent. If we're all hungry at the same time, we hunt better. If we all store fat at the same time, we survive the famine better.
That is unsettling. It makes you feel like you're just a node in a network, not a person making choices.
And we haven't even talked about the biggest synchronizer of all.
Money. Right. The community set point and financial stress.
We know that poverty correlates with obesity. People often blame food deserts or lack of education. But the paper argues it's a direct biological response to stress.
Financial stress isn't just, I'm worried. It's physiological.
It's allostatic load. That's the wear and tear on the body. When you're financially insecure, your cortisol spikes. Cortisol triggers ghrelin. It tells the body to store fat, specifically in the belly, which is the most easily accessible energy reserve.
It treats a layoff like a drought.
It treats poverty like a famine. And financial stress rarely hits just one person. It hits households. It hits neighborhoods. If a factory closes or inflation spikes, the entire community experiences that cortisol spike simultaneously.
So the whole neighborhood's biology synchronizes to defend a higher weight.
Yes. They defend against weight loss because their bodies perceive they're in danger. They raise that lower intervention point to ensure they don't starve, even though the threat is a mortgage payment, not a lack of calories.
And this can even be passed down, right? The paper mentioned the Dutch hunger winter.
Transgenerational epigenetics. It's fascinating and tragic. In 1944, the Netherlands suffered a terrible famine. Women who were pregnant during that time had children who were biologically programmed for obesity. Their bodies were set to hoard before they were even born.
But it didn't stop there.
No. That effect lasted into the next generation. The grandkids carried that metabolic scar. So if you're looking at a community with a shared history of hardship, you're looking at a transgenerational synchronization.
Yeah.
They might be navigating a set point that was preset by their grandmother's trauma.
It really makes the idea of personal responsibility look incredibly narrow. We're fighting history, we're fighting biology, and we're fighting our current social network.
And culture. Look at ritual fasting. Ramadan is a perfect example of a group set point.
Millions of people fasting together.
They lose weight. Their biology changes.
Yeah.
But what happens when the month ends?
Rapid restitution.
The weight comes back almost instantly. The group's homeostatic drive pulls everyone back to the baseline. We also have sociodian rhythms. Circadian rhythms following the sun. Well, we follow our friends. If your social circle eats late at night, so-called social jet lag, you disrupt your metabolism collectively.
So this paints a pretty formidable picture. You have the brain inflammation, the gut bacteria swapping, the pheromones, the shared stress, the history and the culture all locking us into this weight range with our peers. It leads to the big question, can you escape?
That is the million-dollar question. If the network is the problem, is individual weight loss even possible?
The paper talks about fat camps, which, let's be honest, have a complicated reputation.
They do. But biologically, they prove the hypothesis. Places like Camp Kana, they work while the kids are there. Why? Because they physically remove the child from the obesogenic network. They place them in a synchronized lean network. The food is different, yes, but crucially, the peers are doing the same thing.
But the success rates, they aren't great long term.
Because they send them home. That's the tragedy of shows like The Biggest Loser or these camps. You take the individual out, you fix the biology temporarily, but then you drop them right back into the network that set the thermostat in the first place.
And the metabolism crashes.
Hard. The resting metabolic rate drops by hundreds of calories. The body fights the weight loss because it thinks it's dying. And when you add the social pressure of the old network, the pheromones, the food cues, the stress, the weight returns.
So is there anything that actually works long-term? The paper mentions surgery.
Bariatric surgery is the outlier. It works because it forces a hormonal reset so powerful that it can override the social signal. It skyrockets GLP-1 and PYY, the satiety hormones, and it just crushes ghrelin. It essentially deafens the body to the social insurance signal.
But that's drastic. Most people listening aren't going to get surgery tomorrow. What about the rest of us?
The paper does offer a glimmer of hope in couples' interventions. It turns out synchronization works both ways.
We can infect each other with health.
We can, but the signal has to be very strong. The study showed that if one partner has bariatric surgery or makes a massive sustained lifestyle change, the other partner often loses weight too. They call it the halo effect.
So if I start changing my set point, I can drag my partner's set point down with me.
Potentially. But it suggests that if you want to change, you can't just change yourself. You have to change the network. You have to treat the ecosystem, not just the animal.
That seems to be the key takeaway here. We've been treating obesity like a broken bone, something that happens to one person, but it's more like a language, something that happens between people.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Effective weight management in the future might stop looking at the individual entirely. Maybe we don't put a person on a diet. We put a household on a diet. We treat the community's financial stress, not just the individual's calorie count.
Social insurance. That phrase is going to stick with me.
It really changes how you view a craving, doesn't it?
It does. It makes me realize that my body is just trying to be a good team player, even if the team is heading in the wrong direction.
It's altruistic fat. It's the body saying, I've got your back, even when you wish it wouldn't.
So I want to leave the listener with a thought today. Next time you find yourself stress eating or struggling to shift those last few pounds, just pause for a second. Stop blaming your willpower.
Right.
Ask yourself, is your body storing fat because you are hungry? Or is your biology sensing that your tribe is anxious about the future? Are you feeding yourself or are you ensuring your community?
Stay curious.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.